Well, good morning everyone and welcome back. Cumberland Outdoorsman here with yet another one of my 22 rimfire series videos. This is part 2 of a video that I started in which I featured an American Classic, the Remington Model 12 22 pump action rifle. And in that video I showed you an old rifle that I was working on. I was in the process of getting ready to restore that gun, and I'm happy to say I finally got it finished. I've got it here with me and I'm getting ready to show it to you. It's been quite an ordeal, I would have to say, in getting that gun working again, but persistence often pays off, and in this case it did. Let me show you what I've got. Here it is, folks. This old Remington Model 12 that was pretty much given to me, and I put a little bit of money and a lot of effort into it. Just to give you a rundown of some of the things I had to do, the barrel was loose on the receiver and someone had rounded the edges of this barrel off. It's an octagonal barrel and they used a pipe wrench or something and maybe a crescent wrench or vice grips or whatever, and they got a hold of the receiver here and unscrewed it, and they left gouges in the receiver and they rounded the edges off of this barrel too. So I had to weld metal back onto the barrel and use a flat file to machine them flat again, and that's what I came up with. I got the marks out of the receiver as well. I worked that down until it was nice and smooth again. The bolt itself was in bad shape. I had to weld metal onto the face of the bolt and then machine it down flat so that it would feed cartridges into the chamber like it was supposed to, because it was feeding them off to the left and it was jamming up. It was just a real nightmare. And then I had to get a lot of the rust off of the old gun, and I refinished this stock right here and the fore end as well. And then I had to drill the barrel out because the barrel, the bore inside, was actually so rusted and pitted that you could hardly make out the rifling anymore. And I installed a new barrel liner and got it put in place, and I had to recrown the muzzle, as you can see here. And let's see, I had to do some work on the carrier and clean the insides, and also on the magazine tube to get it where it was latching back into place like it should. It's got a little catch right there on the front, as you can see, and that was not working correctly. But the gun itself is in pretty good functional condition. As you can see, it's cycling just like it should. I'm shooting 22 shorts out here right now. It's loading them and ejecting them. Occasionally you'll get a little jam, but you know, I can put up with that, with the rewards that I get from having this old gun. Another one of the tasks I had to complete in restoring this old gun was rebuilding the sights. On the front sight, the blade was broken off, so I had to weld metal back onto the base of it and reshape it and machine it back to where I had a nice fine bead on that front sight, as you can see. Give you a real close look at that there. And the rear sight was damaged here, so I had to shape it back into some semblance of a rear sight so that you could aim the gun. The adjustments were still working. I just had to clean the threads out and get the rust off of it because the screw here was seized up, and I didn't want to strip it out, so I soaked it in WD-40 for about 2 days, and it finally broke free and I got it working once again. And then I refinished it and got it back on the gun and got it sighted in. So anyway, here are some photos and some video scenes of the steps that I undertook to restore this old Model 12. folks, now that you've seen the images of some of the steps that I had to take to restore this old rifle, it's time to get out here on the range and do a little shooting. I came out of the woods a while ago and unloaded the hunting ammunition, which was 22 short hollow point, and we're going to be shooting some CCI standard velocity target ammunition. And really that's all that's necessary and all I would recommend for old rifles such as this Remington Model 12, or if you own a Winchester Model 61 or a Savage Model 29, you know, they're all very similar. I wouldn't shoot high pressure loads like CCI mini mags or, you know, anything that's high velocity. It's just not necessary really. And even if you go hunting, there are so many options open to you nowadays. Here I've got some CCI 22 long rifle subsonic, which is also a lower pressure load, and it's hollow point and it's intended for small game, as you can see. So, you know, really the high velocity stuff is not totally necessary unless you're, you know, shooting way out there. And honestly speaking, a lot of the high velocity ammunition in 22 long rifle is not as accurate as what I've got here on the table. There are exceptions, of course. You may have a rifle that shoots it quite well. You know, a lot of the newer guns and more modern rifles, such as your bolt action rifles, they can handle the higher pressure loads. But for these little old guns here, just stick with the lower velocity stuff. You know, 22 shorts, 22 longs, and subsonic or standard velocity long rifles is what I would recommend. So anyway, I've got some targets set up down here at 50 yards as usual, and we'll see how well the old gun can perform at that distance with open sights. So let's do a little shooting here. Well folks, as usual, I've got these steel targets set up down here at 50 yards, and I've got some of those high visibility stickers put on them, and we're going to do a little shooting here off the bench with this Remington Model 12. I'm already loaded up here, so let's go ahead and commence the shooting. Okay, first off, I'm going to shoot at the squirrel on the left. I see a squirrel on the right there. Well, I knocked my bunny rabbit over. That's okay, we'll set him up again. I see a swinging target right there on the right. Okay, I see a swinging target right next to that one. And there's another one on the left there. Now I see a can down there in the middle on the ground. What's shooting a 22 without shooting at some cans? Let's give that a try. And there was one just to the left of that one. And we're empty. Well guys, so far the little rifle has performed flawlessly using this CCI standard velocity ammo. I'm going to show you real quick how it cycles. There's an empty cartridge in here right now, so all you have to do is just pull the handle back and it ejects the empty case. And then the carrier has a delivery system that brings the cartridge back, and then the cartridge carrier or the cartridge lifter just kind of hand delivers it to the bolt. Here, I'll give you a close-up. You see how that cartridge is coming up, and it's already aligning with the bolt. And then you just close it and everything lines up perfectly. Well anyway, I got that bunny rabbit set back up. Let's see if we can knock him down real quick. That'd be rabbit for supper right there, folks. I see a can down there at the bottom. Let's see if I can smack that can there. Went right through it. Yep. Let me give you a close-up of what I'm shooting at again. Zoom in a little bit more there. I just knocked that one can out and the bunny rabbit's gone. The two squirrels are still there, so let's go for those right now. I see a squirrel on the right there. It sounded like metal, but I'm thinking I winged that one. Let's try him again here. Okay, now the squirrel on the left. Let's try that one swinging target there to the left with the big target on it. Well, folks, for the last few shots, I'm going to shoot at those steel silhouette game animals because they're just so much fun to shoot at and to knock down. And, you know, I try to include some of that type of shooting on my 22 series videos. And I've got some ideas for some more targets that I'd like to get to include in my videos because there's just such a great variety of game animals and pests and other critters that are fair game for the 22 or the rimfire shooter. You know, some of the things that come to mind are crows, for example, pigeons, groundhogs, snowshoe hares. I know they hunt those with 22s further north. Rats, for example, they're pests, but they're fair game for the 22 or any rimfire, really. I know that out west, I think it's in Arizona and New Mexico, there's a type of lizard that those folks out there hunt with a 22. They say they're edible. I'm not sure what the name of that lizard was, but when I was out there, my friend told me about this lizard they go after. There's actually a season on them, and they go out and hunt them with 22s, so that might be an idea. But if you have any ideas for 22 silhouette targets like that, please list them in the comments below, and I'll seriously consider that. But you know, it's so much fun to come out here and shoot at targets like that, especially with an old rifle like this that has been restored by yourself, like this one has. And to get it out here and shoot it and actually connect with targets like that, it's just an absolute blast, let me tell you. You know, these old rifles, the older 22s, or just about any old rifle, they just have a certain charisma, a certain magic about them. There you can see I've got the 3 game animals sitting up there on their pedestal, so let's see if we can knock those down with the last few shots that we have. Okay, we'll go for that squirrel on the left. And we'll knock the bunny down, or try to anyway. Well, I hit him. I never take that target for granted because he's kind of tough to knock down. Looks like he's leaning back. Anyway, we'll go for that squirrel, and then we'll get back to that bunny. See if we can knock that bunny over. Well guys, there it is, my Remington Model 12 pump action 22 that I restored. And like I mentioned earlier, it's been a pretty good job trying to get this back in shooting and presentable condition the way it is now. It's really been more of a labor of love than an ordeal, so I should really rephrase that. But I've always wanted one of these old guns, and this one kind of just fell into my lap. But if you're looking for one of these, they're still available. And I just saw an article that was released by American Rifleman where they stated that the Remington Model 12 was the best-selling pump action 22 of 2019. Now that's rather remarkable because the Model 12 was discontinued in 1936. So, there's still lots of them out there on the used gun market. If you're looking for one, if you can find one maybe at a gun show or at a pawn shop or at one of the websites, just be sure you find something that is suited for your needs, because to be honest with you, in order to get this gun back in shape, unless you've got some gunsmithing skills, and you're willing to do some labor and do it correctly, you're in for a job, guys. Now, in the first video, I gave you some of the history of the Remington Model 12, but there were a few things that I failed to mention, and one of them was the designer of this old rifle, and that was John Pedersen. Now, John Pedersen came up with a lot of ingenious designs, and the one that he was probably most noted for was the Pedersen device, which was something that actually converted the 1903 bolt-action Springfield rifle into a semi-automatic pistol shooting gun, that was intended for the battlefield. I think the military finally scrapped the idea and destroyed what they had, but still it was very, very ingenious to come up with an idea like that and actually make it work. So, like I said, he was an absolute genius, and he was, in my opinion, probably way ahead of his time. Now, he came up with other designs for centerfire rifles and shotguns, and many of those designs were based on this pump action Model 12, and Remington incorporated a lot of those in the models that they released. So in my opinion, I believe that John Pedersen deserves a place in history that's very distinguished and very noteworthy due to the ingenious designs that he came up with. Now, if I can get my hands on a Model 121, I can show you the further evolution of the Model 12 like I mentioned earlier, but I've got another Model 12 here that I'd like to restore, and as you can see, it's in bad shape. It was just like that one there was. The bolt is missing in this one, and it needs another carrier here. This one here is broken. The barrel needs to be relined, which I can take care of that. Everything needs to be refinished. They could probably use another stock because this one's split. Someone tried to glue it here, but everything else is in pretty good working order. Before I leave, let me show you how I take this gun apart for cleaning. And I just thought about it when I looked at that old gun there, but let me include that for those of you that are planning on getting one of these guns, or if you have one and you'd like to take it apart so that you can properly service it. Let me give you some information real quick. Now, the first thing you want to do, as is the case with any firearm before you get ready to work on it or service it, is make sure, absolutely sure, that it's not loaded. There's no cartridges in the breech or in the chamber. So this gun's empty. We know it's safe to work on. On this side you have a takedown screw. You can simply unscrew it with your thumb and your finger. If you can't, then use something like a penny, something that's soft. That penny has copper in it, so it won't scratch your gun. And on most of these guns, now you'll have a little deal right in there that will capture this bolt. You'll have to hold it like that and then take it apart. And this side here, you want to flip it up just like this. And these older models like this one have a button right here that you need to depress when you slide it rearwards. slide the handle rearwards, and you'll see the bolt and the carrier assembly traveling rearwards. Push down on that button and go all the way back with it, just like that. Then you'll want to lift up on this bolt and grab a hold of it right there, and then slide the whole carrier assembly forward, and you can remove the bolt. Now you can clean the bolt face and everything else on this particular part right here. Now you have access to the breech. You can get right into the breech and clean the barrel from the breech end. So I've got a coated rod, which I would recommend, something with a bearing. This one here is a gun slick. It's a really good coated rod. And you can feed your patches right into the breech and push them all the way through out of the muzzle. Okay? And when you get done cleaning, you got your two halves here. In order to put your bolt back in, you have the locking lug right here on top. Okay, you want to align the locking lug with that little depression that's inside the breech right here, inside the receiver. There's a round depression. You want to slide that bolt forward until you see it drop into place. Then you slide the whole carrier assembly rearwards. Make sure you support the bolt here. Push down on the button, go all the way back with it. Now, take your finger and push forward on the bolt. That way the carrier captures the bolt and everything's working the way it should. Now align both halves back together, just like that. Put your bolt back in, and very carefully thread it back into place. And like I said in the first video, if you feel those threads hanging up where you're cross-threading them, stop. Stop right there with what you're doing. Make sure that those threads engage freely, as is the case here. And then you can just tighten them down with your finger and your thumb. There's no need to get a screwdriver or anything else. If you want to tighten them a little bit more, you can use a penny here, give it just a little snug turn. There's so many guns that are ruined by over tightening this bolt right here. You don't need to do that. The gun's going to stay together just fine. As you can see, there's no play, no wiggle at all. Now the gun's reassembled and ready for service. So anyway, folks, I just wanted to include that little bit of information in this video in case you missed it in the first one. But you know, these are wonderful old guns. I really enjoy shooting them. I just like the older guns better than a lot of the newer ones, to be honest with you, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there feel the same way. If you've got something that's been in the family for a long time, a lot of these were passed down, you know, they're family heirlooms, so they're highly valued. You know, being able to properly care for them, keep them going, it's a valuable thing, because you want to keep that memory alive, you know, of your dad or your granddad or your great-granddad or whoever you got it from, your uncle, or maybe a dear friend. You know, it's just really nice to know how to service the old guns that you have and keep them in the family. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you got some useful information, and I hope you enjoyed watching me restore this old gun. I probably could have gone into greater detail on all the steps that I took to restore the old gun, but I didn't want to bore you with all the tedious labor, so I just wanted to keep that part brief. So anyway, just remember, if you like to go hunting, fishing, camping, shooting, hiking, whatever your outdoor pursuit might be, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And also, hit that like button, smash the bell icon, and subscribe. That way you'll know when more videos like this one will be coming your way. So until next time, my friends, y'all take care of yourselves, get out there and enjoy the great outdoors. I'll be seeing you.